Every now and then throughout the year, surveys start popping up and they appear online, even though the very first page says you shouldn't share them. Fortunately for me, people do. When these surveys do pop up though, it gives us a good idea of Blizzard's intentions. Looking back at previous surveys where we've seen them asking about monetization options, and then they appear, is not something that we shouldn't be familiar with. We know some of these things in the surveys don't come to fruition, but overall it gives us a good idea of what Blizzard are thinking about for the future most of the time. And it must be that time of year because actually I've seen 2 new surveys go out in the last couple of weeks. One of them was a much broader survey asking about our general gaming habits, what consoles we play, what types of games we play, where we spend our time. But then when it eventually got to the part where it was asking about if you play World of Warcraft, there was a big shift to World of Warcraft specific questions, but not actual gameplay mechanics. Now, there was another survey as well, which was actually all around Season of Discovery, which we're obviously going to go through that, which I'm going to be completely honest with you, there's not that much information in. It's not like you're going to get any major spoilers here or leaks or anything like that, because it's mainly about just general gameplay enjoyment of Season of Discovery. But it does throw a couple of bits in where we can interpret it in whatever way we want. However, there was something I found far more interesting actually on the much broader survey that went out when I reached this slide. It was specifically asking if we'd be interested in playing World of Warcraft on consoles, and you got to choose whether you'd be very interested, sort of mildly interested, not that interested, or just you don't want to play World of Warcraft on consoles. Now, this has been an age-old question, just why isn't World of Warcraft on consoles where it can reach a whole new audience? And really, from my perspective, I would say it's just never been a particularly friendly console game. I've covered videos on how you can play it with a controller using things like console port and immersion, and it does make it feel playable, but you would never be able to compete with even yourself if you was using a mouse and keyboard. Now, where this starts changing is actually during Dragonflight. Blizzard put this post out all about the changes to Dragonflight and the fact that they've actually added Gamepad API support improvements. That they've made additional API updates to these control schemes, improving support for controllers, touchpads and gyros, so add-on creators can leverage them. Included added support for Gamepad button icons to improve their legibility on the action bar, and ability to combine gamepad and mouse input in a single control scheme. Now, this was also paired with the fact that there was an interact key, targeting system updates, among other things, even like just non-targeted abilities where it was feeling a little bit more action-based. Now, I personally think if we're going to see anything on the console, it would actually be retail and not necessarily classic. On the basis even classic runs on the Dragonflight engine now, where the options and menus and all that are extremely similar, I could see at some point all of World of Warcraft ending up on consoles, especially since the obvious acquisition from Microsoft. Now, like I say, I've spoke about being able to play it with a controller in many videos over the years, because I do actually enjoy just if I'm leveling, sat chilling on the sofa and playing it with a controller. It's not the sort of thing I would actually raid with. I bought the Steam Deck to do some leveling when Wrath of the Lich King actually launched, and it was really useful. When I was getting in bed, I was using the Steam Deck and then actually doing a reasonable amount of leveling, but it's still really clunky, and I think it would need a bit of an overhaul. And you wouldn't be able to just rely on third-party add-ons. It would obviously need to be just baked into the game. You select whether you're using mouse and keyboard or a controller. Obviously, let's not forget the fact that you can just use a mouse and keyboard on most consoles now anyway. But it was really only that one slide out of the whole thing that I wanted to mention, just because it's pretty interesting. We'll fly through the Season of Discovery survey. As I say, it's not going to take very long because it's not mega interesting, but there is a few bits in here. So other than all the age, gender and all of that at the start, when it actually got into the questions, it was asking what best describes your familiarity with World of Warcraft Classic Season of Discovery. So again, this is specifically Season of Discovery. So either played it, heard of it and not played it, or not heard of it at all. So obviously, depending on what you select here would then depend on what your next questions are going to be. But of course, this person has played it, so then they want to know how satisfied we are. Once you decided whether you liked it or not, it was then just a case of deciding how likely you would be to recommend it to a friend. And I mean, I think most of us are enjoying Season of Discovery. Some of us are waiting for Phase 2. Some of us are still really enjoying Phase 1 and actually want a lot longer before Phase 2. I think most of us would be hovering somewhere between the 7 and 10. Then it was just asking how likely or unlikely you'd be to play World of Warcraft Classic Season of Discovery in the next 30 days, and then whether it actually met your expectations. Now, you're never going to meet everyone's expectations. What some people considered Classic Plus was exactly this, and what others considered Classic Plus was nowhere near this. They wanted the original vanilla experience, but just with extra content, rather than too much playing around with the classes and stuff like that. So you're never going to be able to please everyone, but I think overall it's quite evident that it's been a success, and hopefully it will continue to be a success through all of the rest of the phases. The next one I found really interesting, even though it's quite basic. So how would you rate the level of communication with the developer team for World of Warcraft Classic Season of Discovery? Either too much, just right, or too little. Now, this for me is where Blizzard are excelling, actually, at the moment, which is really rare. This has never been the case. Communication has always been a big complaint of mine, but they seem like really open to feedback. They're explaining why they're doing certain things, especially if they're big things. And in particular, Agrand is just all over everything, replying to Twitter posts, even commenting on YouTube videos. Literally, the guy is doing a fantastic job of really getting involved with the community and telling us why some decisions are being made and why certain things that we're crying out for just can't be done. So I think overall, the communication so far with Season of Discovery, and I really hope it carries on, but it's been top-notch. The next slide was just about how satisfied or unsatisfied you are with each of the following. So the first one was Rune Discovery and Rune Engraving, and they described it as bend your class, role and faction, powerful runes abilities to discover around the world, which create entirely new playstyle, archetypes for each class, role and faction, e.g. Warlock tanks and mages can heal. So how satisfied you are with that overall. If I was to answer this honestly to all of you, because as I say, there's not that much info here, so I'll at least give you my opinion. I think the rune system's been amazing. I think there's some runes that we're probably going to see in later game, which would have been nice to have now. But if I did have to say something slightly negative about the rune system, I've made my worries clear everywhere, on podcasts, in videos, on stream, that we've got so many runes already. 12 don't sound like a lot, but we've got 12 runes and we're at level 25. We're not even halfway to level 60. I do worry a bit about sort of rune bloat or ability bloat with the abilities that are going to come from the runes, because we already know it's not like we're going to get another 4 on gloves to choose from, 4 on chest. We're going to get shoulders, cape, bracers, whatever. By end game, we're probably going to have most slots with a rune on. So I'm kind of hoping that we don't just end up with a ridiculous amount, but at the same time, having a ridiculous amount arguably would then make it more fun for some people, but maybe a little bit too overwhelming for others, especially if they joined, let's say, phase 4, and, everyone's working on endgame, and then you're jumping in and there's 50 runes or something like that you've got to go and find and work out what's going to be the best, and it could be a bit overwhelming for people that have just not played through the phases naturally, but I'm sure Blizzard have thought about that, and we'll see how it unfolds. Next, they asked about the new raid, Blackfathom Deeps, so iconic dungeons becoming new raid instances with reimagined and redesigned bosses. Now, this one, again, is going to be very personal preference, personal opinion. How you feel about it will be different to how I feel about it. I kind of thought Blackfathom Deeps was quite fun for the first couple of resets. I'm bored of it now, but as you would expect, I'm raiding on multiple characters. Everything gets boring eventually. I genuinely didn't realise guilds were falling apart over it. And I was reading a post where they're saying that they've made it too difficult for casual players. So there's guilds that can't get past Kelris. We know we see GDKPs doing it already. You've probably cleared it since night 1 when you went in there. If you're playing, an organised group of people that have played together for a while, really confident with their class. But there are actually guilds that literally are disbanding over not being able to get past Kelris. So I find that quite interesting. Obviously, I'm not in that camp myself, but I do also feel like, yeah, Kelris was difficult even for us the first time we went in. We even saw, the best, fastest clearing guilds in the world even struggle with Kelris, having multiple wipes. So we know it's not a cakewalk, but at the same time, how easy should the content be when the gear that we're getting from it is quite powerful, as we know, especially when you can get epics and stuff like that. So over time, it should get easier. And then saying that the epics come from the bosses that these people can't kill. So I don't know. There's no right answer. The next one was around the PvP content. So new outdoor PvP events, world buffs and rewards. I don't like any of it. But that's just me. I don't like the Ashenvale event. I don't even think it's a PvP event. I think it's a glorified PvE event. And a lot of people either just do it, literally just to get the reputation, or just to get their world buff for the week. Outside of that, I've not got much to add. I don't want to put too much of a negative spin on this video, but I actually think Ashenvale PvP, the event, is the worst part of Season of Discovery. But this is coming from someone who don't really enjoy PvP that much anyway. For me to have enjoyed PvP in Season of Discovery, it would have needed, arenas. But it is a part of the game that I do want to start enjoying more, but Ashenvale and pre-made Warsong Gulch against me and 9 freshly dinged players with no gear, not really my sort of fun. But obviously, yeah, Scott, just go and do a pre-made. All right, I could do that. So the current level-banded content phase, so level 1 to 25, leveling initially limited to 1 to 25, with 8 weeks, so just so you know, the tilde key, that means approximately 8 weeks. But it's the first time where I've seen them actually put it in writing that we're thinking around 8 weeks per phase, because That means there's only a couple of weeks left, we know, but I would say probably early Feb might be when Phase 2 comes now, because end of January would be 8 weeks. But they have specifically said here, you know, approximately 8 weeks between each increase. So that's not only just 25 to 40 being Phase 2, it's actually approximately 8 weeks between every level bracket. Now, approximately 8 weeks could be 7 weeks, it could be 12 weeks, you know, approximately. Yeah, don't give us a lot to go on, but it is the first time I've seen 8 weeks, around 8 weeks, actually there officially by Blizzard in writing. I've heard all sorts of, it could be between 4 and 12, it could be, you know, 12 to 14 weeks or whatever, you know, people throwing random numbers around. But like I say, that's the good thing about these surveys, because you actually get an idea of what Blizzard are really thinking. If they could actually successfully do every 8 weeks the new phase comes, I think we'd be onto a winner. And then they was just asking which of the following reasons best describe why you decided to play Season of Discovery. So you could select all that applied, which is PvP content, streamers / content creators I follow are playing it, enjoy creating and leveling new characters, want to try new class archetypes, there's good buzz in the World of Warcraft community surrounding it. I think that's actually a big one. I do genuinely feel like it's almost contagious, you know, because loads of people are saying how much they enjoy it. Everyone's like, oh, well, it must be good then, and they're coming back. But I know a lot of people that don't like it at all. Overcoming new challenges, friends are playing it, looking for new World of Warcraft content to play, usually play all new classic content, friends and family recommended it, or I want to try the new Blackfathom Deeps raid. It does actually look like this screenshot was cut off a little bit, so there might have been more than that. So like I said, there's not a great deal in it, but they are genuinely trying to get our feedback, work out what we've enjoyed, what we've not enjoyed, and that will probably shape everything going forward. This survey's very, very recent, like literally in the last few days, and the generic gaming one that I was talking about where they was insinuating there might be a console version of the game, that was actually a couple of weeks old. But that's it. I thought I'd share it with you because I've not seen anyone else talk about it anyway, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, obviously, like and subscribe before you go as well, please. That'd be lovely. See ya.